Rebecca Middleton, a terrible, terrible story, one that no family should have to endure. Cherie Booth. A 17-year-old girl from Canada goes on a summer trip with a friend to Bermuda. Rebecca Jane Middleton was born on June 27, 1979, to parents Cindy and Dave. Rebecca, or Becky, as she was often called, was the youngest of three children. Becky and her siblings lived with her mom after her parents divorced when she was 13. Becky grew up in the small Canadian town of Belleville, just off of the shore of Lake Ontario. Becky was described as sociable and fun to be around. On June 19, 1996, Becky and her friend Jasmine Means arrived in Bermuda. Jasmine's dad, Rick, had just gotten remarried and had moved to Bermuda. On July 2nd, Becky and Jasmine had plans to go out with some boys they had met. They went to the White Horse pub, had some drinks, and went to one of their new friends' houses to hang out. Around 1 a.m., Jasmine realized she hadn't checked in with her dad. Around 2 a.m., Jasmine called a cab to pick them up. They waited outside, but by 2:30 a.m., the cab hadn't arrived. Around 2:30 a.m., Jasmine called the cab company again. The dispatcher claimed that the cab had driven by and didn't see them. Jasmine said no one had driven by and tried to order another cab. Jasmine and Becky waited outside again. A local man named Dean Lattimore rode by while the girls were waiting outside. Dean said another bike pulled up. One of the men took a liking to Becky. Jasmine and Becky didn't want to accept rides from a stranger, but they needed to get home. Jasmine got on the bike with Dean, and Becky got on one of the bikes with the other two men. The two bikes were near each other for a while until the bike that Becky was on sped off. Jasmine lost Becky but was dropped off at her dad's house safely by Dean. Becky would never make it home. Jasmine said she woke her dad up and said Becky was missing. Rick asked Jasmine where she had last seen Becky. Jasmine said she had last seen Becky near the bridge, but she didn't tell her dad that they had gotten on the bikes with strangers. About 8 miles on Ferry Road, a local DJ named Dana Rollins was traveling home from a gig. Dana and some friends saw something lying in the road. Dana said he thought it was an animal, but realized it was a young girl. Dana was interviewed in this episode. He said that the young girl was still alive, but couldn't speak because her throat had been cut. Dana told his friends to call for help while he applied pressure to her wound. Dana said time passed and the girl started going cold. He felt her wrist for a pulse, but there wasn't one. The ambulance arrived, but it was too late. By July 3rd, Jasmine and Rick had searched around for Becky for about 2 hours and didn't find her. When they arrived back to the house, Rick called the Bermuda police. Rick said he had been put on hold and then told to go to Ferry Reach. Rick asked if they found Becky, but he was just told to go to Ferry Reach. When they arrived at Ferry Reach, Rick told Jasmine to wait in the car. Rick spoke to the police. The police unzipped the body bag and Rick saw that Becky was dead. Rick started screaming, yelling, and punching anything around him. Jasmine said she just heard her dad yelling. She said he dry heaved the whole way back to his house. Jasmine was interviewed by the police. She told them that Becky had gotten on a bike with two young black males. Rick said that was the first time he had learned of what happened. Jasmine said she didn't want to get in trouble. At Ferry Reach, the police found Becky's bloody bra and skirt. The clothes had been cut off of her. Becky's autopsy revealed that she had been sexually assaulted, tortured, stabbed, and her throat had been cut. Becky had 16 stab wounds. The wounds had cut her jugular vein and vital organs. She had about 19 superficial wounds to her neck area. On her head, a serrated knife had been used to scrape and peck her. These wounds have been referred to as Jamaican torture. The torture was done when Becky refused to do what her killer or killers wanted her to do. This video has been sponsored by Jupiter Going Wild. Thank you, Jupiter, for sponsoring this video. So Jupiter wants to know, So I decided to approach this differently this time with your questions. And I pulled a tarot card for each of your questions. And then I'll get into her chart. So you said Rebecca Middleton was a Canadian teenager that was born on June 27th, 1979. She was brutally raped, tortured, and murdered on July 3rd, 1996 in the Caribbean island of Bermuda. This case made me feel very sad and angry because the world is a very dangerous place for women. I hate hearing about women being abused and mistreated. This is one of the many dangers of solo traveling in foreign territory. I would love for you to provide me with more information and insight on this horrible tragedy. So, question number one, what kind of relationship did Rebecca have with her friends? I got the 9 of Pentacles for this question, and this can play out as benefits through friendships, and where Becky was often in a submissive position when dealing with her friends. Number 2, why did Rebecca and her friends stay out late at night on their trip to Bermuda? I got the Chariot for this question. Basically, this is representing they were carrying on, having a good time. They basically weren't concerned about the time until it became very late. Question number 3, what kind of relationship did Rebecca have with her parents? For the mom, I got the Devil card, which could represent a mother that's overbearing and oppressive, but this could have been done out of love, overly protective, basically, with that moon conjunct Jupiter and Leo. For the dad, I got the 6 of Cups. That can deal with the dad being endearing and supportive, and that too is represented by moon conjunct Jupiter because it's in Leo, and also her Saturn in trine with Chiron. Question number 4, why did Rebecca and her friend agree to ride with some random men on their motorcycles? I got the King of Cups for this question. Basically, they didn't want to disturb Jasmine's father out of his sleep. 5, how did Rebecca respond to being involved in this kind of dangerous situation? I got the 7 of Wands, which shows that she put up a fight. Question number 6, how did Rebecca's parents feel about their daughter's disappearance and murder? For the mom, I got the 10 of Swords card. So this shows that she was a nervous wreck. She might have had a nervous breakdown, then being completely devastated once she found out that her daughter was murdered. She might have felt that a large part of her had died with Becky. For the dad, I got the 5 of Cups. This is representing him being filled with sorrow, despair, grief, mourning, and regret. Number 7, how did Rebecca act when she was inebriated? I got the Emperor card. So being inebriated more than likely made her more self-assured, assertive, and where she was displaying more of her masculine side. She could even become combative. Getting the rams is a term used for people that get intoxicated and they want to fight. And the Emperor card corresponds to Aries, the ram. Number 8, what was the cause of Rebecca's death? I got the King of Pentacles, which is representative of a dark man. Number 9, what led to the police in Bermuda mishandling her murder case? I got the Judgment card for this question. So this shows that it was determined early on to throw out the case because the tourism industry is prioritized over serving justice. Number 10, will Rebecca and her family receive any justice? I got the 4 of Wands card for this question. Basically, this shows that they will witness some of the events involving the killer, which can provide the foundation for justice. The killer is currently doing time for another offense, but will they receive like direct justice? I don't think so. Number 11, was Rebecca murdered by one or multiple people? I got the Star card, so I'm seeing this as one killer and one accomplice. Here she is in her high school picture. So let's get into her numerology. Her birth number is 27, breaks down to 9, and that produces natural leadership ability, but where the person can lead with sensitivity and compassion. Also, she could have had athletic ability, being a 9. tomboyish, prone to be deceived due to being naive. And this is representing Bermuda, with islands represented by the 7 and 27, and nation represented by 2. So island nation. Life path number 5. This represents the bikes because 5 rules transportation, vehicles, including bikes. So bikes, transportation, also the media coverage that ensued as a result of her death. And the fact that she was found lying dead in the road. Roads are ruled by the number 5 as well, because 5 corresponds to Mercury and Gemini, also Virgo. So here's her chart right here. As you can see, she has a stellium in Leo, Mercury, Moon, Jupiter. Also, you could throw in that black moon Lilith. She has Saturn conjoined to the Virgo North Node, Pluto in Libra, Uranus in Scorpio, Neptune in Sagittarius at the 18th degree. That 18 can manifest as murder. South Node in Pisces, Chiron in Taurus, Mars in Gemini, Venus in Gemini, and she was a Cancer sun. 5th degree, which reinforces the themes of her life path number. So the main issue goes back to her nodes. So she had a Pisces South node. It was opposing her Virgo North node and Saturn in Virgo. So with this opposition, she could easily lack discernment, not being discriminating. This is like a Little Red Riding Hood aspect, basically, where she's, trying to make it home or trying to find her way to grandma's house, and comes upon this wolf. Victimization due to being in need of help. Negligent police force. This quote right here pertains to this opposition. Dr. Michael Baden, a forensic pathologist, re-examined the autopsy. He learned that Becky's body had been washed before the autopsy was done and fingernail scrapings hadn't been taken. So the negligent police force, but even seems like a negligent medical examiner. Also, government officials try to maintain clean reputation. The clean reputation is represented by Saturn and Virgo. So Neptune and Sagittarius is squaring the nodes. So with this square, vacationing on an island with Neptune representing islands, Pisces represents islands as well, but in this case, it's representing her victimization. So vacationing on an island, which is the epitome of Neptune and Sagittarius, results in her victimization. Lacking discernment due to being intoxicated. Shoddy work by the prosecution. This quote right here pertains to these squares. The lead prosecutor on the case left the island a week before Smith's trial, leaving it to a newcomer to take on the case. After days of evidence, the judge directed the jury to acquit Smith, saying there was not enough evidence against him. Also hiding some of the details of the case, with Virgo representing the details. Pisces is hiding, but in this case, it would be Neptune representing the hiding. Now, the whole thing is so discouraging, Dave Middleton says. They had it all cooked before it even got to court. 2 years ago, Bermudian officials abruptly yanked film permits from a Canadian documentary crew probing the Middleton case, citing reputational risks to the country. So these two statements are pertaining to these squares as well. Now, when you have a square involving the ruler of the sign that's in square, basically the result is very catastrophic. As you can see, Neptune rules Pisces, and Neptune is squaring the Pisces South Node, which just exacerbates the potential for problems to come out of that Pisces South Node. It makes it a guarantee that the problems will surface in some of the worst ways. So I included this comment from the website that I was reading the story on. The website is called Kylie's, let me see. Kylie's True Crime. And as you could tell, it's written by an amateur the way it was written, but that's neither here nor there. But this comment stands out. It's from someone who is from Bermuda. And basically, this person is giving people the real on how things are done in Bermuda. So they said Bermuda is full of corrupt police, prosecutors, lawyers, and judges. If Rebecca Middleton parents had gotten lawyers from Canada to come to Bermuda to litigate it alongside the lawyers in Bermuda, it might have gone right. In Bermuda, everyone is connected to each other one way or another, if not by blood, by being in bed with another, or through affiliations. Justin Smith's father was a high-ranking Freemason with connection, obviously, to the lawyers, prosecutors, and because England is the haven for criminals to start their lives over. If I was Rebecca's parents, I would have filed to sue the Bermuda government for denying them a fair hearing. I mean, who goes ahead with a trial without DNA evidence in a rape or murder trial? If that was me, I would have persevered until I got justice. I am Bermudian and I worked for police when Rebecca was murdered. I know how they are all connected because all Bermuda wants is to pride itself on being a safe and beautiful destination, but I know it isn't. Black on white racism is high, high, high. And it's interesting that Rebecca was a Cancer and Cancer rules race. And it's not safe for white people there. It is predominantly Black populated, and they secretly hate white people because of the slave trade. They carry that like a badge of honor to this very day, even though none of them were slaves. Rebecca's parents were screwed over because they could have demanded they wait for the evidence to come back. What right did the prosecution have to go ahead with trial without giving Rebecca's parents an opportunity to say yes or no? Evil is all Bermuda is, and I would strongly suggest these white businesses in America not to take their conglomerate companies to Bermuda and boycott Bermuda because they only want the white man money, not his friendship. I feel free to share my comment, but please let me know if you do by emailing me. I think what they did to get parents was beyond evil. Bermuda needs a lesson in white power. So again, Neptune is squaring the nodes, and Neptune is representing Bermuda itself. Now that Pisces South Node is representing her, going to an island, like that's part of the themes of the Pisces South Node. But then this Neptune is triggering the victimization theme that comes with the Pisces South Node. And again, Neptune's ruling islands. Moon conjunct Jupiter in Leo. So with this conjunction, Rebecca was prone to be very naive, but where she also had a happy-go-lucky personality, and she could have gave people the benefit of the doubt too readily. And this conjunction can make her a party girl, a world traveler, and interracial relations is a major theme of this conjunction. Her story garners worldwide attention. Moon and Jupiter in Leo square Chiron and Taurus. This is basically showing caution being thrown to the wind due to naivete. Being hit with an object, perhaps on her back, that's possible with that. Taking a risk with foreign men puts her safety in jeopardy. Wound to the neck results in a lack of blood flow to the heart, could have been the ultimate cause of her death. Moon and Jupiter in Leo quincunx Pisces South Node. Drinking results in impaired judgment. Could overdo it on the alcohol. Alcohol could bring out the exhibitionist and party girl in her. Now, this quote right here, Bermuda is seen was more intent on preserving its image as a pristine, safe travel destination than in delivering justice. So in this situation, the Pisces South Node is representing Bermuda. And that Moon and Jupiter in Leo is representing Rebecca's need for justice. So Mars is at the 0 degree of Gemini in Rebecca's chart. So this is representing two guys, two locals. the bikes, thugs. I always say Gemini is the thug of the zodiac, and these two guys were thugs. Basically, two-faced, duplicitous men, and this is also representing the media attention. Mercury at 0 degrees, Leo, sextile Mars, and Gemini. So this could have endowed Becky with a talent for creative writing or acting. She could have been popular in school. And this is representing the media attention as well as the eyewitness accounts. Sun in Cancer, trine South Node in Pisces. Rebecca's ability to spend time in an island nation. She was very comfortable around islanders. The interesting thing, too, is her nodes are at the 11th degree, and that 11th degree can produce racial conflict. Venus and Gemini, trine Pluto and Libra, benefiting greatly through her relationships. The investigation uncovers the culprits. Venus and Gemini, quincunx Uranus and Scorpio. Becky and Jasmine get split up. A friendship that is touch and go. This can play out as a fair weather friend, which I feel like Jasmine was. Because I'm like, why would you allow your friend to get on a separate bike with men that you don't even know? And then you wait a long time to tell your father what actually happened because you didn't want to get in trouble. So it's showing that Jasmine didn't care too much about Becky. Jasmine manipulates or pressures Becky into accepting a ride from the guys. She could have threatened to leave Becky behind if Becky wasn't willing to get on the bikes. So again, I'm not seeing Jasmine as being this really upstanding friend that really was looking out for Becky's best interests. Jasmine was looking out for herself. She wanted to get home. She allowed Becky to get on the bike with two strangers while she got on the other guy's bike. And I'm wondering if she knew this other guy, Dean, because they called him a local, kind of implying that she, was aware of him or that she knew of him. Also, this is representing the bait and switch, the old switcheroo, where these guys are offering her and her friend a ride, and next thing you know, it turns into an assault. This quote right here. A local man named Dean Lattimore rode by while the girls were waiting outside. Dean said another bike pulled up, and one of the men took a liking to Becky. Jasmine and Becky didn't want to accept rides from a stranger, but they needed to get home. And again, I feel like this quincunx is representing the pressure that Jasmine put on Becky to accept that ride. And Becky's judgment was weakened anyway through her drinking. Now, Jasmine got on the bike with Dean and Becky got on the bike with the other two men. The two bikes were near each other for a while until the bike that Becky was on sped off. Jasmine said she had last seen Becky near the bridge, but she didn't tell her dad that they had gotten on bikes with strangers. Mars and Gemini sesqui-square Pluto and Libra. This is the aspect right here that's representing these evil men and also representing the botched court case, like how things were how justice was not served. So being in a dangerous environment, that's what this aspect is denoting. Excessive force, torture. It says Middleton from Belleville, Ontario was 17, and on a holiday when she was raped, stabbed repeatedly, and left to die. Kirk Mundy, then 21, and Justice Smith, then 19, were charged, then acquitted. And when you got Pluto and Libra, that's like dealing with a corrupt justice system. On her head, a serrated knife had been used to scrape and peck her. These wounds had been referred to as Jamaican torture. The torture was done when Becky refused to do what her killer or killers wanted her to do. Also, this sesqui-square is representing two men who do not restrain their sexual urges, like two bull elephants in heat. Being the target/enemy of a man on a bike. Now, double jeopardy is another manifestation of this sesqui-square because basically that's how the dude didn't serve time for that crime, is because he had already been acquitted, I think they're saying. So to try him again would be double jeopardy. That double jeopardy is shown through Mars and Gemini. What followed were a series of futile attempts to retry Smith that were ultimately rejected by Britain's Privy Council on the grounds he had already stood trial once. So that's the double jeopardy. A grave injustice. Bermuda authorities would later concede the family had suffered a great injustice, but nothing changed. That's Mars sesqui square Pluto. Venus in Gemini, opposition Neptune in Sagittarius. Being stranded due to the cab being a no-show, with Venus in Gemini representing the cab. Being kidnapped while on a bike. This opposition involving Neptune can manifest as kidnapping or where a person is going missing. Also, this is showing where the case is dismissed due to the double jeopardy argument. Then this quote right here is pertaining to this opposition. It says 10 years, and that 10 is represented by Venus being at the 19th degree. 1 + 9 = 10. 10 years after the murder, Bermuda compensated the Middleton family for pain and suffering. The check was for $2,840.63. That's insulting. It's 10 years later, and they want to sweep it under the carpet, Bennett said then. And wanting to sweep something under the carpet, that's very much Venus opposition Neptune. Bleeding out due to openings in the neck. So this quote right here, she had about 19, Venus at the 19th degree, Venus rules the neck. She had about 19 superficial wounds to her neck area, Venus at the 19th degree. Also, there's Jupiter at the 10th degree, which can represent also where 10 years after the murder as well. Uranus in Scorpio, opposition Chiron and Taurus. A friend puts pressure on Becky to let down her guard. So again, I'm seeing as Jasmine being the one that was really pressuring Becky to get on the bikes with those guys. A friend who puts her safety in jeopardy. A friend who tries to tear down her self-esteem. Painful separations. A wound to the neck results in arterial damage. All right, let's get into some of Rebecca's pertinent asteroids. So her sun running parallel to Atlantis. And this is dealing with Rebecca experiencing a sense of impending doom, because that's what Atlantis is about, sensing impending doom. So this shows that she was experiencing a sense of impending doom about the guys on the bikes, but she still went ahead. And like I said, I think it was because Jasmine, her friend, was pressuring her. Mercury parallel Pandora can represent the eyewitnesses, because Pandora is about basically revealing damning information. Mars contraparallel Pholus. This could represent Dean, the guy that identified the two perpetrators, because Pholus deals with blowing the lid off of a situation. Saturn parallel Taureau. Being a victim of violence, male aggression. Taureau deals with violence, male aggression, machismo, fighting. So it can also show that she was trying to fight back. Pluto conjunct Achilles. The autopsy showed that she was dragged by the heels. So Achilles heel, basically you could take it literally at times with this asteroid. Pluto conjunct Cupido. Cupido deals with attraction, adoration, a lover, what have you. So this represents the murderer who took a liking to Becky. Pluto contraparallel Eros. This represents the murderer who took a liking to Becky, also represents Becky rejecting his advances. And with Eros being at the 4th degree of Pisces, that Pisces is representing the guy being an islander, Bermudian. So some of her fixed stars that are pertinent are Mercury conjunct Aludra. Aludra can result in being good-hearted, charitable, faithful, but it can also manifest as dangerous passions, danger from or fear of darkness and night. So that part, danger from darkness and night, that's really applying to her life, her situation. Sun parallel Hamal. Hamal is a fixed star that can manifest as violence, cruelty, and brutality. Sun conjunct Tejat posterior. This star pertains to force, energy, power, and protection. Venus conjunct Hodis 1 and 2. Hodis 1 deals with self-confidence, honors, and in that picture, looked like a high school graduation picture or whatever. It looked like she did have like something around her neck that could represent honors that she earned. Happiness, but great vicissitudes, adroit mind, public service, magistrate, judge. So the main thing to take away from this is the judge. Hodis 2 deals with being petulant, lascivious, depraved, and vicious in terms of one's desires. So this is representing the guy that basically was on the bike with Venus being in Gemini, Hodis 1 and 2 being in Gemini. Cowardice, early death. So that pertains to her early death. Says possibly suicide, but we know that didn't happen in her case. A deceptive exterior. Jupiter parallel Acellus Australis. Horrors, being self-willed, uncooperative. Jupiter conjunct Giansar. Penetrating an analytical mind, travel, that deals with Rebecca's life most definitely. Many friends, craft, ingenuity, and valor, but danger of robbery and accidental poisoning. So I'm thinking they probably searched her pockets too to see if she had money, but you know, she was robbed of her life, you could say. Uranus parallel Sirius. Danger through impulsivity. So that points to her and Jasmine getting on the guys' bikes, and that put them in danger. Neptune conjunct Sabik. Wastefulness and lost energy, perverted morals, success and evil deeds. Now, again, Neptune and Sagittarius, among other things, is dealing with the justice system in Bermuda, with Bermuda representing, being represented by Neptune, and Sagittarius, the justice system. So this shows that the justice system was successful in their evil deeds to basically not charge these guys with murder because they were trying to maintain their good reputation as a great place to vacation. All right, so let's get into some of the main transits that were befalling her when she died on July 3rd. Here's one of the suspects, and that's Monday. And basically, it came out later that he was the killer, but he also had an accomplice with the last name Smith. I don't have a picture of the other guy, though. But he's currently serving time for another crime. So he's kind of basically gotten his karma, but not directly. So on the day that she died, transiting Pluto was in Sagittarius and it was opposing her Mars in Gemini. And this could play out as subterfuge or where someone's using deception to get the best of you. A threat, being overpowered, being outnumbered, being in a precarious position, danger is afoot, being on the receiving end of hate, jealousy, or envy, an emergency situation, being in crisis, being discarded, an investigation, autopsy. Pluto, transiting Pluto in Sagittarius, semi-square Pluto in Libra, succumbing to outside pressure. So again, I believe it was Jasmine that was pressuring her to get on those bikes against her better judgment. Also, this could represent a time where much that occurs is beyond your control, being beset with grief or remorse. Transiting Pluto in Sagittarius, trine Mercury in Leo. This can represent her completion of high school, could have been accepted into a college or university, a vacation that has special significance. Transiting Neptune and Capricorn, sesqui-square Virgo North Node, semi-square Pisces South Node. Being lost, being deserted, viewing his situation as hopeless, being filled with tremendous guilt or regret. A tragic event triggers a remittance of some karmic debt, being forced to retreat or surrender, lacking discernment due to being intoxicated. Transiting Uranus in Aquarius, semi-square Neptune in Sagittarius, losing track of Jasmine. Jasmine could have been coaxing Becky to drink more. A friend, in this case Jasmine, puts Becky in a vulnerable position. Transiting Uranus in Aquarius, sesqui-square Venus in Gemini, overstaying at a friend's house resulted in issues with getting a ride home. Jasmine could have pressured Becky to accept a ride from the guys. Transiting South Node in Aries, quincunx North Node in Virgo, being stabbed repeatedly, and I'm believing some of those stab wounds were in the area of her abdomen. And that North Node in Virgo, the 11th degree in particular, deals with the abdominal aorta, which extends all the way up to the chest and through the heart. So I wouldn't be surprised if this part of the aorta was damaged through the stabbings. Stabbing leads to the rendering of first aid, but it was unsuccessful, with Virgo representing first aid. Transiting Venus in Gemini, square Virgo North Node and Pisces South Node, representing the cab that never showed up. Navigating a new social tableau, being naive to someone's real motives, clouded judgment. The dude on the bike with Becky sped off beyond the bike Jasmine was on, triggering fear within Becky, and this represents the change in plans, change in paths. So that concludes my reading on Rebecca Middleton. Thank you again, Jupiter, for sponsoring this video. And if you would like to sponsor a video, you can send me an email. I'll post my email address in the description section of this video, and just write video sponsorship on the subject line with whoever you want me to do a reading on, and we'll talk about how much that sponsorship will be and all that stuff. So stay tuned for more videos. Peace and many blessings.